What's up, Aaron?
Hello.
What's up, you two crazy nuts? How are you guys doing?
Fantastic, Arrow. Thank you, man.
The dream catcher worked because here we are.
Yeah.
You guys and this podcast, it is such a cool concept, and you're proving to people that a single thought, playing the parts of your moms, is God, dude, I feel like I'm reliving my life with my own mom because I'm thinking like you guys.
Well, you're welcome, Arrow. You're welcome, my friend.
To get together to do this, because that's one thing. First of all, I always believe that birthdays are a celebration of motherhood. So that's how close I am to your podcast, because you're really honoring your moms.
Oh, that's awesome. That's such a great way to put it. I've never heard anybody, mention their birthday and motherhood at the same time, but it's so very true. But that's how we kind of got into this. Joe and I have been friends for quite some time. And we basically always came back to the fact that we were always given great advice from our mothers and thinking, how can we channel that? How can we be great conduits of the gift we've been giving and pass down from our own mothers? So we thought, look, we're not licensed therapists. We're not professionals in the least. But given our experiences in, I think, show business and social dynamics of everything that come along with that, why not take this to the road? And so we tried it out, and it's been over a year now, and we've had a blast doing it.
Yeah. I'll tell you how effective it is in my own personal life is that when it comes to young adults at the other essential job, I sit there and I think of, well, what would my mother do with this situation of this guy that keeps coming in late? And so you're teaching me, a male, hey, mom taught me something. Act like your mom for a moment here, and let's find some peace on this team.
Yeah, for sure. I think a supportive atmosphere and a nurturing mother. We were both lucky to have great moms who were very active moms as well, who took a active role in our development as boys into men. I think it was really interesting to have that perspective, and it's more important not to lose that perspective as we get older, I think, and now as we're parents as well.
I think the commonality we also share is that both our mothers seem to be very blunt and honest and cut to the chase.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, my mom was the one that would sit there and listen, and then she'd say, go talk to your dad now. Go tell him what you just told me, and then we'll all meet in the middle.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think the tone and what you're communicating is you're about to get a whooping from dad because mom's physically not going to whoop you.
Now, do you guys write this out and plan it out before you go into it? Or because you do things live and on the improv, does it come out as it's happening?
Yeah, we don't get the questions beforehand. We like to get them in the moment. Our producer, Mark, does a great job of curating it for us, and we'll get them in the moment and answer live there, which I think is always better. And being friends for such a long time and just brilliant comedians, we're able just to shoot and talk to each other for a half hour before, so half of the episode we just basically go down rabbit holes and have just friendly banter beforehand, which is always my favorite part of the show as well.
Wow. And the thing that's fun about the show, too, is that the questions go from mundane, trivial to what did you have for breakfast today, to some really deep-rooted, serious, impactful questions where, granted, that's the nature of the show. We're receiving these, and they're almost, I think, kind of blowing off some steam by saying, okay, let me take this to a comedy podcast and see what happens. And we really do our due diligence in trying to give some great advice. I think Joe is usually a lot better at really reading the tea leaves and breaking it down pretty quickly and offering up some really, really great advice. Whereas I'll try to play devil's advocate afterwards. But he does a fantastic job, and there's a reason I love doing the show. But there's also a reason why when I've had certain situations bubble up in my life, Joe is the first person I think to talk to in terms of getting advice. Yeah.
Isn't it odd how the older we get, we realize how wise we are? And it comes up like on your podcast. I'll sit there and go, holy crap, that I never even thought of that. And it's like, and you guys are sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, I'll say stuff that sounds like a motivational poster at times, and I'll be like, "Where'd that come from?" But that's what's fun too, is because through the conversation, I think you get there, and Steve does a good job curating those moments as well, where we'll realize we haven't answered the question yet. We've had a lot of fun talking and joking around, and sharing a little bit of our life experience, because we're both older gentlemen that's been through a lot at this point of our lives, ups and downs and whatnot. So. But I think after a little while, we'll realize, okay, now let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. And could be a lot of fun.
How are people reacting? Are they reaching out to you after these podcasts? Because I find myself talking to the actual system in my car, but it's like God, not everybody gets this opportunity to talk to you guys like this.
Yeah, I think you really see the impact when you're out on the road, after shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, after shows, I meet people, and they're very complimentary, and it almost does feel like a community we've curated, our little niche out there in the podcast world, where people feel comfortable to understand you're not the only one with problems, you're not the only one with issues. And the fun thing is that we'll take those issues as serious as they are and still try to infuse some levity along the way and make you feel good about the situation and know that there's other people out there, including us, that are there to be supportive of you. Now, Joe meets people after his shows, and it's called a meet and greet, and they cost money. You can just meet me for free. That's how accessible I am.
I meet people for free sometimes. I would say the big thing too is like we'll get follow up, right? We'll get people who will send another Instagram message to our Two Cool Moms Pod account and be like, "Hey, that worked. So, we worked it out," or like, "Hey, dummies, that didn't work." But we'll get a lot of follow up, which is interesting too, to actually people, because it is a community we're building, and reminding everybody that we're all just trying to get through this life together.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you define compassion and perform compassion without really pulling out the dictionary. We hear it in your voice, your pitch, volume, and tone. That this is what they mean by compassion.
That's such a great point too, and I think when we get these questions sometimes, especially the really serious ones, I think that's where, to be honest with you, I think the podcast strength is Joe and his compassion for humanity in general. He's got such a big heart. I think we both have big hearts, but I think when you listen to the podcast, you really hear, okay, this is somebody in need. Let's do our due diligence. Let's do the best job we can. And Joe's usually the one that kicks these things off, where I think the more serious questions. So to your point, Arrow, I couldn't agree with you more. And it comes down to communication, right? And communication, tone and reflection. I think that really the cadence of how somebody's communicating is so much more important sometimes.
Yeah, because we'll talk about the end of the day. These people are in a spot where they're reaching out to two strangers on the internet for help. So it's like we should try to do what we can to give them a little bit of advice.
And don't you find yourself in a position of, now that you're a leader, and that leadership is through a podcast where we can't see your facial expressions, so therefore we have to listen to what's going on.
Oh, I think people luck out they don't have to look at our grotesque faces. And I appreciate what you said around that. I mean, I read between the tea leaves there, as Steve said. And I also find my voice very annoying. So that's not a good thing. But no, I think it's really, I think people do understand there is a genuine, humanity behind the podcast as well on top of it. But first and foremost, Steve, we've chose professions to bring joy and laughter to people. That's what we try to do to pay the bills. And we're so fortunate to have that as our life. And that's not lost on us. So we thought this is another medium to be able to do that.
I love the way that you guys have taken this out onto the live stage. And the reason why is because my call at the Comedy Zone used to tell me all the time as podcast was getting, they were starting to get popular. He says, they're going to come from the podcast. They're going to bring their shows here. This is a new layer of connection with people who need that medicinal.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because I think, for example, Joe's got, his first hour special coming out very shortly. That, fans want to dig into it, feel free, by all means, follow Joe on socials. You'll learn about it. But I think what happens is there's that dynamic of going out there and monologizing, being a monologist for 60 minutes. And you're getting a slice of insight from that person. But the podcasts, I think, bring accessibility from anybody who enjoys that individual doing stand-up to really kind of like you're really peeling back the layers and really understanding who this person is. So as much as a podcast is popular, it's popular because there's gravity to that individual, and people want to learn more. They want to hear a little more. They want a little more insight. And I think that's the great thing about our podcast, that we are literally kind of like opening the doors. We're not talking about like being on the road and this wacky thing happened to us. It's like we're really getting into things that bind us all together, which are, dilemmas and issues, as serious as they are or as lighthearted as they are. You're kind of like learning how we think and how we break down things.
Wow. And we run the gamut. I remember one episode, literally, we covered what was the best horror movie that we were talking about. Like, we went back and forth. Somebody had asked us, like, what was one of the best horror movies we'd ever seen? Then we talked about, how to admit you're wrong to your partner. Ooh. And then I think we also spoke about losing a parent, and it was all in one episode. Wow. And it was like, we really like run the whole gamut here. And on top of that, we were making jokes about everything in the beginning. So it really is a wild ride. And even for us as the hosts.
Wow. You guys have got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very kind of you, buddy.
You guys be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You as well, buddy. Continued success.